Hi, my name is Hannah, and I'm a Chinese major and a news minor. So I just think all of your comments now about the insular thought and early this morning about pontificators, I guess, on the right, comes at a really funny time because there's a magnifying glass on the 18th Party Congress with Hu Jintao making almost 50-page speeches about how China really needs to make sure it reforms, but within the party. So it's very insular, and about like 2,000 people make all the decisions about who's going to be in power. And yet in the West, there's been all this reporting about all of the corruption going on and all of the people with advanced degrees emigrating, and all the bloggers saying they don't trust anyone. So how much does China really need to focus on reforming the party, or does it need to expand to include new parties, or does it even need to change? And the news that we're receiving in the West really is kind of insular in itself, with thinking that the Chinese government needs to change.
Well, we're all going through reform efforts that are unique and individual to our own place in history and our own political systems. So China has 5,000 years of history. We have the longest surviving constitution. We're divided by the Pacific, which tends to be a very big body of water sometimes. Different languages, different views of the world. And as you're studying China, you no doubt know that China lives in a very challenging neighborhood. We don't sometimes appreciate that fact. We have the safest neighborhood in the world. We have the most impenetrable borders in the world, the Atlantic and the Pacific Oceans, which have kept us free from takeover for a long time. And we're going to declare war on Canada anytime soon. We have a decent relationship there. China, on the other hand, is surrounded by 14, 15 countries, some of whom they've gone to war with since I've been alive. Soviet Union, border disputes, brink of nuclear war in 64, 65, India 1962, Vietnam 1979. Short but a vicious war. It's a tough neighborhood. And you say, it's really hard for us to put ourselves in their shoes and say how we would run things when our view of things geographically and based on our own neighborhood is so fundamentally different. But reform in China will be necessary. Hu Jintao leaves, Xi Jinping comes in, the rise of the fifth generation. He'll have a new standing committee of the Politburo. So the 2,000 you talked about will give way to 25 members of the Politburo, half of whom will be reelected. And they'll then give way to, I'm guessing, 7 members of the Standing Committee of the Politburo, as opposed to 9, which they had after the 16th Party Congress, 2002. And Hu Jintao didn't get much out of the deal when Jiang Zemin left in 2002. He didn't get a lot of allies in the Politburo. So consequently, for 10 years, it's been deal cutting, it's been deal making through all kinds of backroom negotiations and compromise. And consequently, I would argue, we've had a lot of missed opportunities in China the last 5 years. I think Xi Jinping knows that. So he comes up at a unique time in history. He has to give all the speeches at the 18th Party Congress. He has to, because he hasn't fully consolidated his power. And move forward with reform efforts, which will be needed within the party, but how the party interacts with others, how it opens up, how it's accessed, how it's seen by others who are concerned about corruption. So you've got 80 million members of the party, and 3,800 outposts around the country. A whole lot of people who aren't members of the party. And a whole lot of bloggers and people who access the internet who aren't members of the party, who are interested in the affairs and the future of the country. So that's going to have to be reconciled at some point. And then the whole economic side is going to have to be dealt with. And that's payment state enterprises that have kind of written their own rules for too long. So a lot that needs to be done. I think Xi Jinping is in a position to do a lot of this reform successfully. I think he's got the right temperament and personality, and I think he'll have the right people around him who will be able to engineer the way forward. It's going to take some doing. Challenges to be sure. But then the opening will be there. Probably midpoint next year, when Xi Jinping will have consolidated his power and he'll be ready to kind of embark on some sort of reform agenda. It's hard to know exactly what. But the question then will be, are we ready? in this country. Because the fact of the matter is the cycles of the bilateral relationship are very peculiar. And the cycles are such that in many cases we can't get business done because we have elections here, nobody wants to talk about the relationship with China. It's easier to say what you're going to do to China than what you're going to do with China. There are leadership changes there, you know, we'll sell arms to Taiwan and get locked out for 6 months. There are just a lot of externalities to the relationship that really have an impact on our talks and our ability to make progress. We, over the next, I'd say 2 to 4 years, are entering a very unique period, the two of us. And that is China will have new leaders. We have a re-elected president. We don't have a whole lot of constraints holding us back. If ever there was a time to put forward a 21st century vision for this relationship, it would be in the coming year. I hope it happens. I think both sides may be up for it, but we'll see. It would be a tragedy if it was a missed opportunity, if over the next year or so we didn't get both sides together to forge a more realistic 21st century relationship on economics and on security both. Are you studying language as well?
The language part is my major.
Oh, good. How's it coming along? Good. And what are you going to do?
我还不知道。
你还不知道？你往你这儿推个问题。We can discuss that later.